Drivers in BC are paying record high prices for gas, and there's no signs of it dropping. That's because the first of 4 annual increases to the province's carbon tax kicked in this week. The average price right now, about $1.56 a litre. Other provinces might soon see similar increases as the government prepares to implement a countrywide carbon tax as part of a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Joining us in studio this morning is Federal Environment Minister Catherine McKenna. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
All right, how do you sell a carbon tax plan to Canadians if they see examples like BC where they feel like it's going to hit them in the wallet?
So there's a lot of reasons prices of gas fluctuate. We know it goes up and down. On weekends, we see it. That has nothing to do with the price on pollution. Look, polluting isn't free, and we all know this. And Canadians have been clear. They said we need to take climate action. And so countries have taken different approaches. 80% of Canadians live where there's a price on pollution. And interestingly, the provinces where they put a price on what you don't want, pollution, they get innovation. So they get companies that are coming up with clean innovation. And they also, can do it in ways where they give the money back. So British Columbia has been giving rebates. So they give all the money back. It's called revenue neutral way of doing it. So there's lots of solutions, but that's like one part of a climate plan. And we know, so in Brantford, you saw extreme weather, and we're going to see more extreme weather. And so we need to be thoughtful about how we're going to do that, how we're going to address that. And there's so many ways that we can save money by making our houses more energy efficient. We can reduce waste. So I saw you were talking about food waste. We can easily divert food waste. And it's just about being smarter with our resources, but also, it's really about our kids. We need to have a more sustainable future. So you can actually do things like save money by having more energy efficient houses, have electric buses. Wouldn't it be great if all the school buses were electric? And then, then it's actually better because you're going to have, you have more money in your pocket, but you're also going to be able to ensure that we have a future for our kids where this extreme weather, we're able to control it.
I think everybody in the country would agree we want to take care of our planet, take care of our Earth. We all want it to be better for our kids in the future. But the concern seems to be about how much it's going to cost us now. And does it need to be as expensive as what your government is proposing? You mentioned other countries. Let's talk about Australia. They ran on this platform. Everybody overwhelmingly said, they voted in a government that said we want to take care of the environment. A recession hits. All of a sudden, carbon tax becomes a really expensive and unpopular plan. They lost the election the next time around. Is this an issue that you're willing to make an election issue and perhaps even lose over?
But so as I say, 80% of Canadians live in a place where they price pollution. It's actually the cheapest way to do it. Because if you're going to reduce pollution, you're either going to regulate, you can put a price, and people can save money if they pollute less.
But do they have to regulate at the levels that you want? Why not let them set their own targets?
The problem is, we can all say this. It could be, we'll just let someone else take action. That's not a responsible thing to do. And there's a huge economic opportunity. So countries around the world are taking action. China just announced a price on pollution, but also investments in solar panels, investments in new technologies. And Canada, we don't want to be left behind. And so you have this opportunity to do smart things that'll create good incentives so that we'll reduce pollution, we'll drive in electric cars. So I try to explain that, the Stone Age didn't end because there weren't stones. Stone Age ended because we had better solutions, and it's the same. We can do things in a cleaner way, in a more energy efficient way, in a way that's going to protect our planet, and it's just smarter. And so hard things are hard. And I think we just all need to be working together. And if we all say, forget it, we don't want to change, we don't adapt, we're going to be left behind. Countries are going to leapfrog us. They're going to create the jobs, the solutions of the future. But also, we're all going to be worse off. And today I'm actually launching something called Canada Climate Atlas. And it's a really cool new application where you go online and you can see what the weather's going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years. And I think it's pretty sobering because I think sometimes it's hard, like when you talk about climate change, we all see impacts. You see flooding or droughts or forest fires. But when you actually take a look at what is the future going to look like if we don't act, I think that it just makes the point, let's be smart about it. Let's act now. Let's do the things that we can do. Amazing company out of Toronto that has compostable pods. So I bet you lots of people are drinking their coffees now.
Right.
Why shouldn't we have technologies like that in new products?
Those are the small things people can understand, but we're talking about big things, like carbon tax for every province, targets that some people say are too expensive for us, like Saskatchewan, for example. They say, look, we can't afford it. We're not going to do it. We're willing to take you to court over it if you try to make us do it. Recently, we had on newly elected PC leader Doug Ford here in Ontario. He said if he is elected and becomes premier, well, I'll let you listen to what he has to say and then give you a response.
We'll be side by side with Saskatchewan. We'll be side by side with Alberta, and hopefully we'll get Manitoba on side as well. You can't make these companies at an unfair playing field when we're trying to compete worldwide, trying to compete south of the border.
So the concern is that companies will leave, go south of the border if it becomes too expensive. Potentially 3 provinces who are going to say, we're not having it, we're going to stick in our heels. What's your government going to do?
I mean, so it's really interesting that you have conservatives that are saying don't put a price on pollution. This is a conservative idea. It's actually the cheapest way for people to reduce emissions because it says you will save money if you pollute less. And we're not going to tell you how to do it. And so Brian Mulroney actually brought in a price on pollution when we were trying to tackle acid rain. So I'm pretty old. I remember acid rain was a really big thing. And that was a way to deal with it. It was a lot cheaper than people thought. And the way that we're working with companies, so I have companies, the 5 major banks, I have consumer goods companies, I have energy companies who support putting a price on pollution because they'll factor that in and they will reduce their pollution and will create innovation. And of course, they want to do the right thing because we need a sustainable planet. And so we've said to provinces, design your own system.
But it has to match your targets.
Yeah, well, the system has to, I mean, it has to have a price on pollution. It has to meet the benchmark. But we have said, give the money back. Give the money back to your consumers. That's what British Columbia does. So there's ways of doing it that the impact is really, you will change your behavior, but you get the money back in your pockets. And so we just have to be smart on climate action. As I say, pricing is just one part of this. And we've done it in a way that companies understand. We understand that we need to be competitive. I want to attract investment. That's why we're taking action on climate change, partly because the countries in the world that figure this out will innovate. They will create the smart solutions. They will create jobs. And also, at the end of the day, I've got 3 kids, and we all want to ensure that we leave them a healthy planet.
Minister, good to have you here this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.